So you are a retired firefighter?
Yes.
25 years?
Yes, 12 days ago I retired, so.
People must be falling at your feet after. You must be treated like heroes when you do this.
So sometimes it was around a block of flats and we'd be standing there, we'd be putting the fire out, we'd be getting gear off, and suddenly loads of potatoes start getting thrown out. We've had double mattresses thrown out, bottles of urine, all landing around us. So
Why? Is there one particular job that really stands out for you that you think, oh, how did I get through that?
We were called to assist ambulance. We need to help us getting this gentleman into the ambulance. One of the paramedics came up to me with a jar of Vicks and said, do you want to put some of this under your nose? Well, why would I want to do that? So we walk into the lounge and it's pitch black. I just see this figure on the sofa. It's like a real skeletal figure. Like, he's 2 stone wet through. Like, what do you need us for? We grabbed him and we started lifting him up. We realised he was actually stuck to the sofa, literally stuck to the sofa. His backside had rotted into the sofa and formed part of the sofa. Looked back into the sofa and you could just see the bare springs and maggots all in the bottom of the sofa.
Syd, how you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Nice to meet you. How's things?
Yeah, very well, thank you very much.
Good. So you're local, right?
Yeah, Chelmsford boy.
Love that.
Yeah.
Nice and local to me. A couple of minutes away. Job done. So you are a retired firefighter?
Yes.
25 years?
Yes, 12 days ago I retired, so it's all a bit surreal.
12 days ago?
Yeah.
You spent 25 years. What rank did you finish?
I finished as a station manager, which is middle management, quite a good level.
25 years in the fire service?
Yeah.
God, you must have seen a lot of changes.
Yes, a lot of changes.
Wow, where did it all start for you? How did you get into jumping into the fire service first of all? Was it your first career or?
No, it wasn't my first career, and being a firefighter was never on my radar.
Really?
I never wanted to be a firefighter. So, some children dream of it, but I sort of fell into it really. I started my career. I was in the Royal Engineers. As was yourself, I think.
Fellow Enger.
Yes.
Yes,
I
glorious
was.
Corps. When did you join?
I don't know why you left. Why did you leave it?
I went on to bigger and better things, mate. When did you join the Royal Engineers?
So I left school on a Friday and joined the Royal Engineers on a Monday as a boy soldier in the junior leaders. I spent a year down in Dover.
So you were 16 when you
16
done
years
that.
of age. And I look at my boy now, he's 15. I think, 4 or 5 months' time, he could potentially be doing, if he followed the path I did, he'd be doing it. And I look at him. And
so what did you join? 16 and how many months?
So I joined in the June. So I was 16 and 6 months.
Yeah, I joined at 16 and just 11 months, just turning 11 months.
Okay.
Mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
But they didn't have the boy soldier back then. It was just like you joined, that was the age that you joined. You couldn't go on operational tour until you were 18.
No.
But back then it was boy soldier, right?
Yeah.
So you left school straight into the army?
Yeah, straight into the army. Spent a year down there. I actually got to junior squadron sergeant major, so I was a junior stick man. Which is
junior stick. Carl, the lingo's coming out now.
Yeah.
Junior stick man, that's right.
So I think I peaked too early. I didn't achieve any rank in the army, but I went on to I served in 5 Airborne Brigade with 36 Engineer Regiment in Maidstone. Did my first tour there at 18. Went out to the Gulf. Wasn't involved in any action out there. We were the clear up team. We were on standby to go out to America for a six week tour out there. Couldn't wait to get out there. And a week before we went, we got flown out to Saudi Arabia to basically clear up afterwards after the war. Spent 4 years there. Went out to Bosnia. Did a 6-month tour in Bosnia with the UN, which was quite a harrowing tour. Yeah, very cold. Yeah, very wet. Yeah. Left there and then went to Cyprus, did 6 weeks in Cyprus with UN, and then transferred to bomb disposal.
So you went down that route, did you?
Spent 3.5 years at bomb disposal, and then I signed off. So back in the day, I was on open engagement, so I'd signed up for 6 years initially, carried on year to 9 years, and then I signed off.
So you've done your years sort of probation or your years sort of get out clause. Yeah. So you sign off, you have to do a year, and then you're out.
Exactly that. During that year, I was like, what am I going to do? Because all I ever wanted to do all my life was join the army. That was it. From 4 years of age, as a boy, I want to be a soldier, want to be a soldier, want to be a soldier.
So you had that in your head, Sid. You were like, right, from a young age, I want to be a soldier. I've got into the Royal Engineers, they're great. They're an awesome unit. They're your awesome corps. You go bomb disposal. Was there something about bomb disposal you didn't like, or was it a career path that you didn't? That didn't engage you, that didn't excite you? What happened?
I had a brilliant time in the army. I wouldn't have changed it for the world. I'd found my limitations within the army.
Okay.
I was a very good soldier. I was very good at my trade.
Selection?
No.
Oh, why not, Syd?
Because
there's your limitations right there, right?
My limitations were my physical fitness. I was strong.
P Company, Commando course?
No, again.
5'9", 9 Squadron?
They're all things that I'd love to have done, but I knew my limitations. And I know I appreciate all your, mind over matter and all things like that. But physically, I was very strong. I was very able, but I just couldn't run. You get some people, I used to look at the blokes that had 20 fags, 10 pints, go and do a BFT and smash it in 8 minutes. And there's me doing it in 10 minutes, just, busting my gut to get across the line. And no matter how much I tried, I just couldn't get that like racing snake fitness. So I realised no matter how good a soldier you are, unless you're at the front leading your men,
that leadership takes over to get to that elite level, isn't it?
And I just realised that I was at a point in my career where I was going to be doing 22 years or get out and find something new. I was 25 years of age. I had age on my side to go and find a new career. That's
the good thing about joining young, right? Because you join young, you get disciplined, drilled into you, the structure of solid foundation of life, of man management skills. You talk about socializing around the world and, being able to hold a conversation, being able to manage a team, whatever it may be. Those crucial life skills at such a young age is what changed my perspective in life, and also changed my, or allowed me to jump into multiple careers like I have done. It's that discipline and that structure from such a young age, which I think lacks in society nowadays. It's great from the military, right?
I don't think we appreciate how much the military gives us, because you are so young. You're 16. You don't appreciate it until you reflect on actually just in that year in junior leaders, that 1 year you grew up, you went from a boy to a man. I know that's a bit of a cliche.
No, you do.
But it was, you suddenly you're on your own, you're doing all your own ironing, you're doing your own washing, you're stitching. And if you don't do it, you find out the repercussions of not doing it, so you never do it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're scared, aren't you?
Oh, God.
You're fearful of what the wrath that's about to come if you don't tip up immaculate, if you're not, your boots aren't immaculate. And I think that's what differentiates us from other fighting forces. They've got the same weapons, they've got the same tactics, but we're just a disciplined fighting force. Our discipline is so attention to detail. It's so detailed that I believe when people say, Ant, what's the difference between American Special Forces and UK Special Forces, or even foreign forces and our forces? And I always say it's the discipline, it's the attention to detail, the discipline that's drilled into us, where we don't trip over the smaller things, where we get the smaller things right so it doesn't amount up to a living nightmare. And I truly believe it's our discipline that really separates us from the rest.
Yeah, without a doubt. I can't argue with that. And but it goes back to the little ways that discipline's instilled in you.
Exactly.
You're out in the field, they check your wash kit, it's minging, thunder flashing it, bang, gone. You don't do that again, do you? Even now, but and those standards are with me now. I don't go out unless I'm well dressed and when I'm shaven, or just little things like that. And I think, like I say, when I got to the point that I was ready to leave, those skills that have been given to me certainly stood me in good stead entering into the fire service. Although, as I said, it was never a career choice. It was never on my radar.
So you're 25 at this stage, and you're like, right, you're right, you're young enough. The same with me when I left the Special Forces. I was 31, just turning 32. I was like, I've got a whole career in front of me now. I can use these skills to do whatever I want to do, really. So you're 25 and you think to yourself, I'm leaving. How did the fire service come across your lap, should we say? How did that first spark or spike in interest within you?
Well, like I say, it didn't spike an interest. It wasn't on my radar.
Someone just went, here's a career, it's a good career.
Well, I was thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with myself? So my core trade was plant operator mechanic. And I think, do I want to be standing on the side of a road digging holes for the rest of my life? Not particularly. Do I think, I've got more to give than that? Yeah. It was actually my wife's mum. She's passed away, unfortunately, God rest her soul. But she saw an advert in the Essex Chronicle, firefighters. Do you want to do this? And I was like, oh, that's not really, no. Why do I want to do that? Picking up bits of body off the side of a railway track. You know, that was my image of the firefighter at the time. I was like, no, that's not really. Well, what else are you going to do? Well, not a lot else. So I just signed it, sent it off, forgot about it. Didn't think anything come of it. Then I got invited to the medicals, then invited to the fitness.
You
test.
went through the process, right? Just to see what it was like.
Yeah. Then I got invited to the written exam, passed that. Then, passed the physical, then got to the final interview stage, turned up, cool blazer, cool tie. I took a little resume of all the different
smart
things.
As a guard, but twice as hard.
Well, I usually get called smart as a guard, but half as tall.
Listen, I'm vertically challenged as well. So you passed all of that?
Yeah, so I passed
colours.
all of that and got in. So I'd PVR'd, I'd signed off in the November, and this was in the March. So I had to PVR, which is premature voluntary release. I don't think they do that anymore.
No, they don't.
So that cost me £250, which happened to be the best £250 I ever spent. Mm-hmm. And because I could PVR, I could choose my leaving date. So, I thought there's no point having a month off, and, so I PVR'd on the Friday and joined the Fire Brigade on the Monday.
Love that. You've got a nice sequence of events there. Your career path. Leave on a Friday, start on a Monday. Yeah. And that's exactly what you've done. So you use that period of what happens when you sign off. You've got a year of you just go around. Did you do any courses?
No, pre-release courses.
Pre-release courses, yes.
Yeah,
so
because I PVR'd and it all happened so quickly. Yeah. It was like bang.
So boom, Friday, Monday. Talk to me about your first day of training going into the fire service, and also, did you think that it would be sort of as disciplined as the military? Because the fire service, in my view, back in the day, was an extremely disciplined service. I don't know if it's like it now. We'll cover that over this next few minutes. But did you jump out of one uniform and into another?
Yeah, literally. I distinctly remember, and most people do, their first day at training school. So we were ushered up, sitting in the little mess room.
Take me back. What year is this? When did you start?
This is 1998.
98. Well, that's when I joined the army. Yeah. January 98. Gone.
So so we're sitting in the mess room, having a cup of tea, chatting, all young lads together, not really knowing what we were letting ourselves in for, and then bang, the door throws open. One of the sub officers comes in, screams, "Right, get up, get out now, get downstairs. This is the last time we're clearing up behind you. Get out of the room now." And you can see there's some younger lads there and had no previous military experience. Their sort of eyeballs are like that. And it was like, oh, right.
Yeah, you're like, I know the score. Yes, sir. No, sir. 3 bags full, sir.
Exactly. Yeah. So we run downstairs, and that was our first introduction. And, that experience we've spoken about before of the military and of going through those processes. It wasn't an easy ride by any means, but again,
you were well prepared, right? Sid?
Yeah.
You knew the score. You were well prepared. You knew what was coming, but you knew how to play the game as such.
They're all games, aren't they?
It is. Let's put it straight.
We had a locking inspection once, and they came down. They looked at, so we call them lockers. So on a fire engine, you have lockers, and in each locker you have rolls of hose, all the equipment that you're going to need at any sort of incident. Yep. So at training school, those lockers are absolute god. They're clean to within an inch of their life.
White glove and
exactly that. All the brass is polished, all the metal's cleaned, there's not a speck of dust in there. And we had our first ever inspection. It was immaculate. We'd gone to town on it. Sub officers come down, everything gets thrown out, lockers thrown on the floor.
Standard procedure.
And they're all like, "Oh my god!" And I said to the lads, "Just put it back on. Just put it. Just."
It's going to happen every single time for the first couple of weeks. Yeah,
like we know there's nothing wrong with that. They're just like sending us a lesson. So we put all the stuff back on. They came back down, went, "Yep, fine," and I sort of. That's the game.
Exactly. It will happen again next week.
Yeah, it's never going to be good enough.
How long is the training? Or how long was the training back in 98?
For me, it was 5 months.
5 months.
20 weeks.
5 months until you're a fully qualified firefighter. And
it takes 4 years until you're fully
4
qualified.
years. Yeah. So after the 5 months, what happens?
So after the 5 months, you have your basic training, which I think was 10 weeks, 12 weeks. And then it goes into specialist training. So you do your RTC, your breathing apparatus, your
RTC?
Road traffic collision training, which is like the extrication, cutting out cars. You do your breathing apparatus training, fire behaviour training, where you go into hot fires, backdrafts, flashovers, that sort of stuff. First aid training and so forth.
And how did you find that? What was the difference between military training to going into firefighting training? Was it is it claustrophobic? Is it scarier? Is it what was different where you thought, wow, I haven't experienced this before?
The claustrophobia.
Claustrophobia. I've heard that for a lot of people.
Yeah, I've all my life I've never liked being constrained. You know, like when you have bundles.
I'm the same.
When you have bundles at school and you have 4 people on top of you and you can't.
I can't get in. Well, couldn't get in small lifts, tight holes, especially when people are in front of me and behind me, and I haven't got that control of. You know, I'm at the mercy of other people's speed, and you know, it's that really used to frustrate me. And going through the military and going through these smarty tubes, as they were called, you know, because they were so small. You know, I remember just closing my eyes and holding my breath. And when I think about firefighting training, when you go through the rat runs and all that, I think to myself, could I do that? You know, back in the day, probably not. But now, because I've been through the process and I know how to handle it, I could. Yeah. But that's a big thing I hear with all firefighters saying the claustrophobia is real.
Yeah. I mean, when I was in the army, I didn't like caving. Absolutely, rock climbing, loved it. Caving, it's like no, because. You know, it's all about thought process, isn't it? And you're just thinking, if I get stuck in that gap and water floods in, what am I going to do? You know, it's to overcome the fear factor and all overcoming that. So when I went into the fire service, and when I was actually doing my first initial basic training, I said to one of the sub officers, "I'm a bit worried about it, BA. You know, I might have claustrophobia." Just hoping he'd sort of give me a pat. Yeah, you'll be fine. But he went and told the station manager or the station officer at the time. Next thing I'm pulled up into his office. What's this? What? You're claustrophobic. You join the fire service, and that's probably what I needed because it made me go right. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get through it. So when I got to the BA, breathing apparatus school.
Got you. So that's where you got all the kit on.
Yeah. So they've got these underground tunnels, and they have crosshairs put in them, and they're put in at an angle. So it's just like an opening with crosshairs with scaffold bars. So each segment is a slightly different size. You're going down there, first in, all black,
you're fully kitted up here.
Fully kitted up, breathing apparatus, your tank on the back, and you have to pick what you feel is like the biggest hole and then commit yourself to go through it. And the only way you can go through it is by putting both hands above your head, which then narrows your shoulders.
Yeah, Superman style.
But you don't always know that. So the first time you try and do it, you know, you're trying to... It's a natural reaction to put one arm through and keep one arm back. So if it doesn't happen, you can pull yourself back out again. But to fully commit, you have to put 2 hands over your head and then go through
shimmy
heads
through your toes, isn't it? It's literally the toes pushing off.
Well, you've got the guy behind you who basically grabs your boots and then just forces you through, and then you turn around and then you help pull them through.
But I don't know. I don't think I could have done that as a youngster.
There's another one.
Claustrophobic.
There's another one is a letterbox, which is basically just big enough to get you and your tank through, and you're literally just crawling along with your fingernails, just trying to pull yourself through. And I can honestly, I mean, this is
just
the first
nail marks everywhere. You're like,
this is the first time I think I've openly talked about this, but that was the only time I ever felt like jacking it in.
Really uncomfortable.
That was really. And unfortunately, during my career, I never experienced anything like that again. Wow. But it's like you guys do. You train for the worst case scenario, and then everything else seems like a breeze.
Absolutely. So you get through that. 5 months, and then what do you do after your 5 months? You get assigned to a station. Posting. And where did you go to?
I went to Orsett Fire Station.
Okay, nice.
Which is
and
Nick Gray's Tilbury there.
It's like snakes and ladders, right? You get to the top of the ladder of training, then straight back into a posting, into a station, into a unit, whatever it may be. So you go to your station. So that'd be what, 99?
No, that was still 98.
98. So back end of 98.
So it was March that I joined up, and I got there in August.
Yeah. So what was it like back then to go to a station? Was it very bantery? Was it very laddish? Was it male dominant orientated? You know, was it like in the military where, you know, I think when I first joined there was no women in the Royal Engineers, and that was in 98. I think there was maybe one going through basic training, so it was really like, you know, a real big thing. Was it? What was it like in the fire service when you went to your unit, to your station? Sorry.
So there was it was all white males. There was no women. I think there might have been one female in the whole of the fire service at that time in Essex.
Wow,
that I
so it was. So it was very still that era,
male,
sort
white, or you know, dominated environment. But it's very hierarchical. Like most of those sort of jobs, you go in, I was the new boy. I knew my place.
You knew the score by then.
And that's you know, in my career, we've had recruits come on that are ex-sergeant majors. They've left the army as a sergeant major and they've come into the fire service, and now they're a recruit on the back of the fire engine. You know, exactly. And to the majority of the fire service, the sergeant majors, they don't understand what a sergeant major is. To me and to you, it's God, isn't it? You know?
But the thing about it is, that's the thing about the military, right? You leave with this stature, you know, this grandeur of, you know, I was this in this organisation, and you step into society, you step into a different organisation. They don't care really. They're not only they don't care, but it means nothing to them. So all of a sudden, you've got to deal with that in your head and think, right, now I need to actually come down to the bottom of this ladder, or maybe not start at the very, very bottom, but I need to start on the first rung or the second rung. I can't start up here where I left, right? No. And how hard was that going into, or did you just suck it up and go, do you know what, I know the score, I know what I need to do, keep my mouth shut and progress as quick as possible? So
it's advice that I give to recruits now is you let the watch get to know you, not you get to know the watch. I think sometimes if you're too over familiar with people when you walk in, you think you're everybody's best mates. They're like,
you're gonna get so, not beaten down physically, but you're gonna get smashed down, aren't you?
So you go in there, you play the game, you play the grey man. You don't, you know,
banter, banter,
loads of banter. Yeah. I mean, so as a recruit or as a sprog, you'd always be answering the phone. You know, phone rang. If you weren't answering it, they'd want to know why. Yeah. After dinner, you'd clean all the. So we have a thing called a duty man, and the duty man's responsibility is to answer the phone, check the printer when we get a fire call, clear up after everyone's meals, and everyone takes their turn. But as the recruit, as the new guy, that's your job.
Yeah, like that structure, isn't it?
It's your job until the next new guy comes. Yeah. Which could be 3 or 4 or 5 years. For me, I was quite lucky. There was someone come up behind me, but it's still the expectation that you'll do it.
Absolutely.
It was my first Christmas. Bearing in mind, I got there in August, got to the Christmas, and I got a PlayStation for Christmas. So I was playing it, and then it was dinner. So we had our dinner. I was eager to get back on my PlayStation, and I was like, well, right, I'll clear everyone's plate away, tidy all their plate away, who hadn't finished eating, put it all in the dishwasher, brilliant. Get downstairs, start playing my PlayStation. Next thing, firefighter barrack to the watch room. So I've come out of the space that I was playing the PlayStation, bag over my head, grabbed hold of me, dragged me outside. We had an open water pond that we used to use to pump out of. They've picked me up. They've started 1, 2, like 3. I think, they're going to put me down in a minute. No, sailing straight through. I broke the ice on the way through into the pond.
Yes.
Then they all run back into the station and locked all the doors. Yeah. I'm standing out middle of January, freezing, trying to get back into the station. Managed to get into an outdoor toilet, but it had grills on the toilet, so externally. So I'm sitting in the toilet trying to warm up a bit. Then a hose comes in through the grills and soaks me while I'm inside the toilet. The only way I got back in the station, they got a shout, the doors rolled up, and I managed to run out and run under the door before the door closed. And that,
really?
And this is the first time, like, this is after clearing all their plates away and doing everything for 6 months. This is the first time I missed it, like 2 plates.
Yeah.
And that's what I got.
There you go.
You know,
but you learned.
Yeah,
but you didn't miss any plates after that.
No, I didn't. No.
The biggest question there is, what game were you playing on the PlayStation?
Probably FIFA, I think.
But could you get away with it, on a serious note, could you get away with that nowadays?
No.
So you've seen a complete change from when you've joined to where the fire service or the firefighters are at now and the banter.
So,
and do you think it's a good progression? Do you think it's a healthy progression, or do you think it's gone? The tables have turned a bit too much. And just talking about that banter, I remember going to my unit. I was kicked through my locker. Where I was, people would come in drunk and tip me out of my bed, and
like
smash my room up. It's like you'd wake up in the morning with a sore head, and on the floor, and you just be like. And there's limitations, aren't there?
Yeah. I mean, I think that real boisterous element of banter is gone. Mm-hmm. I think there's still banter. You still get it. There's japes. Buckets of water propped up against the door when someone walks through. All those silly things. But I think the extremities, like the real extremes of banter, has gone, and I think rightfully so.
Yeah, I do as well.
I don't think there's a place for it.
No, I think there's levels, aren't there? Do you know what? I think there's always place for banter, you know, but I think there's levels of banter, you know, where, like you said, that male dominant organisation back then, you know, everyone's testosterone's flowing, everyone's got that hierarchical structure. They want to maintain that structure. They want to maintain their position, and like they say, shit rolls downhill, right? So it's a case of, back then, it was certainly a case of trying to keep that in order. But you didn't leave any plates out there after, right?
No.
So you and how long since the next guy came and took over from you?
I think it was about 3 or 4 months. Okay. But again, you know, I still wasn't elevated to the point that I was like an experienced firefighter. I was, you know, you're still the sprog until.
And can you remember your first job?
Yeah. It was a nothing job really, but for me it was just amazing. You know, the bells went down, and it's like, you know, get out, jump on the back of the fire engine.
So the fire pole.
Yeah.
Is that still a thing?
It's still a thing.
Yeah. So wherever you are, it's just like, it's the quickest way to get down. No stairs. No.
Very rarely used.
Okay. Very rarely used.
So back in the day, again,
just for Christmas dues, right?
Yeah.
we won't go into that. So go on.
So you got a firefighter. It's logistics, really. You got a firefighter's pole. You got 10 people on the top floor. Back in the day, you just one after the other follow each other. Yep. Bang, you're out, you're gone. Now you have to wait for the one to drop to the bottom, clear the pole. Next one, drop to the bottom, clear the pole. You might as well. 10 of you can run down the stairs together.
Exactly.
So you know. It's used. It's more.
Matt, bloody health and safety has to get in the way of everything, doesn't it?
Always.
Health and safety. So your first job, you get called up. So you're excited,
It's only a bin fire.
Yeah.
But you know,
but it's your first job, right?
The blues are going, the twos are going. You're in the fire engine. Everyone's looking at you. It's like this is the nuts. We turn up, get to this. It was in their back garden, and I was with one of the more experienced hands, Brownie. And we've gone up to open the back gate to get into the back garden. And it won't open. And he's looked at me. He's gone, booted through. I'm going, you what? He's gone, booted through. I'm going, all right then. So I've just kicked the crap out of this gate, bust the gate open, and just put this bin fire out. And I was thinking, this is brilliant. I'm getting paid to smash shit up.
Yes.
This is great.
Yeah, brilliant.
So yeah.
It was literally just a bin fire.
Just a bin fire, yeah.
Some kids have probably, or someone's had a cigarette and just...
Yeah. Something simple like that. But, you know, we're not wanting vandals, but at the end of the day, our priority is to put the fire out. So if we have, you know...
Your priority over everything is to extinguish the fire, correct?
Yeah.
No matter where you are, what situation, what environment, establishment, your job is to extinguish that fire, put that fire out.
Our priority is to save life. That's the priority.
Priority is to save life. Okay.
And extinguish the fire. But obviously, depending on the situation, we're going to always send 2 teams in. One will be to search and rescue, evacuate the person, and then the other team will fight the fire.
Welcome to my Mind Over Muscle Festival, hosted by myself, Ant Middleton. You're in trouble. Now, once you go through these gates, there's no going back. Let's do this. With 250 acres to play with and to fill, come along, fill it up, and come play with Team Ant. My Mind Over Muscle Festival, hosted by myself, Ant Middleton, is open to all. Come along, face your fears, and unlock your true potential. This festival is open to all abilities. It will be action-packed, fear-defying, and a coming together of positive, like-minded people, encapsulated with the main ingredient, fun. Very unselfish, isn't it? Because you don't really think about yourself, do you, when you go into situations like that? It's a case of, right, you've got to concentrate on saving life, which is huge. That, you know, you sort of relinquish all responsibility for yourself there, don't you? You're just like, right, I've got to save life. And then, you know, it comes hand in hand. You've got to put out a fire. You've ultimately got 2 jobs, which are huge, and they come hand in hand. And the teams are split for that, are they? So you have one designated, or do you just roll it? However the mission sort of, or the task unfolds, you just roll with it, do you?
It all depends on the initial assessment by the officer in charge. So right. if it's a 2 up, 2 down house, person's reported on a bedroom, you might only have 2 fire engines to start with. So you get the first team in with a hose reel. They'll start search and rescue. If they come across the fire, they'll extinguish the fire. But as soon as you can, you'll have another team going in who will then start doing whatever the other team's not doing. So it's all depends on that initial assessment, and it depends whether it's persons reported or not, which means is there people within the building. So our priorities are we'll risk our lives to save savable lives. So if we know there's people in there, we will risk our own lives to protect them.
And people must be falling at your feet after. You must be treated like heroes when you do this, because ultimately you're saving lives. You're not only saving lives, you're saving livelihoods. You're saving houses. You're saving people's careers. You're saving everything, really.
Yeah.
How does it feel to get the job done, and what are the sort of positive repercussions from the people the lives that you save and that you change? Is it must be a super positive reward thereafter, no?
I think we don't always see the after effects of that. So if we had an RTC, we'll intervene, we'll cut people out, we'll send them off to hospital, and that's usually as much as interaction we have. We don't get a lot of feedback
after. You just do your job and you're gone.
They're sent. Historically, I think we used to sometimes chase the hospital and say, how did those people get on? I think now with data protection, they don't give that information out to other than families. So unless we read it on the news or see it in the paper,
I think that's really sad. I think, being involved in someone's life to that point where you're saving it, and, you're literally, you could be saving a whole family, a whole generation. And to just have that cut off, like you said back in the day, those old school sort of community traits, those old school community sort of communication and connections and ties is what kept the community alive. And it's sad to hear that, all of a sudden it's just, cut off. It sort of takes away that human element of it, doesn't it?
So saying that, sometimes we do get people will revisit us, come back to the fire station and box of chocolates and a card. Thanks very much. You did this for us 3 or 4 months ago, and we're like, oh wow, that's a nice touch. So sometimes we do hear those sort of things. Kelly's Bronze Turkeys. They had a fire quite some years ago, and every year they used to bring us a turkey for our Christmas dinner.
Nice.
So people are very appreciative.
Did they have a fire, did you say?
Yeah, I think so.
Were the turkeys overcooked when they brought them?
Yeah. That's probably the one that keeps bringing back. It's all pre-done.
Brilliant. So a question that I wanted to ask you, and I think a lot of people, especially the viewers out there, are interested in, is it mainly fires that you go to? Because we see you guys on the roads, we see you guys, and you think of the ultimate, firefighter. It's, you're putting out fires in houses, you're going to fires. Is it fires that you mainly deal with, or has that changed over the years?
Fires is probably...
You said no pretty quickly then, so it's
fires are probably the least thing say least. We don't go to as many fires as we used to, and we go to more, AFAs is probably the
AFAs?
Actuated fire alarms. So basically a false alarm. Right. So if the fire alarm went on this building now, the fire service would attend. It's just a false alarm. They drive back. So Broomfield Hospital, which is a hospital in Chelmsford.
Yeah, no.
I probably went there about 1,000 times in my career.
Really?
And not one fire, because it's the fire alarm going off.
But you have to treat it like a real fire.
So, it's a saying in the fire service, it's never a false alarm until we're on our way back. So
I love that.
We treat everything as is until we get there and it's confirmed that it's not. So all those traffic movements, all those blue line movements up and down Broomfield Road trying to get to the hospital, and every time it's, bless them, could be the nurses burning the toast, or it could be someone vaping in the toilets. And that's quite difficult when you have those. It's human nature, that after a period of time, that suddenly it's Broomfield Hospital.
You sort of switch off to it, And, boy that cried wolf, right? One of those situations.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why we say it's important for the public to dial 999 if they see a fire, and don't assume somebody else has done it. Because if we go to that on our 1,000th time Broomfield Hospital, just assuming it's another AFA and we've got to reset the alarm.
Not in the right headspace.
But if we've had 100 phone calls from someone on another ward that's seen it, that information gets given to us on the fire engine, we've had multiple calls to this incident. So straight away, our alert levels are going up now because we know we're going to an issue, we're going to a job, you know, and that's a benefit as well.
And how are you always greeted at jobs? Because wasn't there a stage, and I'm not sure if it's in the UK, so correct me if I'm wrong, but in America, and you hear it, I don't know, again, I might be completely wrong here, but, you know, tipping up or turning up onto a location or turning up to a mission or a task, you know, a fire, whatever it may be, and being treated really, you know, hostile, entering that hostile environment where firstly, they don't want you there. Secondly, they sort of treat you as the police or as the enemy. Does that exist in the UK? You know, when you get onto a job and there's chucking, bricks at your thing, stopping you from you know, accessing a certain area, whatever it may be. Does that exist, or did it exist?
It has existed, and it still does exist. If we go back,
that stuns me. I can't get my head around that.
So, if we go back to earlier in my career, you know, 25 years ago when I first got to Orsett, so part of Orsett's station ground was an area called Tilbury, Chadwell St Mary, which are quite underprivileged areas in Essex. And we rocked up there a couple of times, turned up on the fire engine, blue lights going, turned up. As soon as we stopped, brick through the window. Yeah.
Oh, so it did. Yeah. It does happen.
It's just a bin fire. So kids have set something on fire to call us in. We've turned up, brick through the window. We've had a joyrider hit the back of the fire engine, and then we, you know, deal with them, put the fire out, come off the ground. So this gets reported back, and then we're told we're not allowed to go on to their estate until we've got a police escort. So we have to turn up, park off about, you know, half a mile out of the estate, call the police, wait for the police to come along, and then the police escort us in. And then
so you get a call, for example, you know it's that location where it's hostile or you've been treated badly before. You then have to call a police escort in order for them to escort you in, which could waste minutes, seconds. You know, something that's the difference between a whole house going up to you know, a couple of minutes to being able to put it out, right? So you have to wait for that escort in order to go into that location. Yeah. Oh, that's heavy duty.
And then sometimes it was around a block of flats, and we'd be standing there, we'd be putting the fire out, or we'd be getting gear off, and suddenly loads of potatoes start getting thrown out. Which sounds quite innocuous, like a potato, but when it's thrown from the 15th floor of the building and they're raining down on top of the fire engine, so now we can't go anywhere without putting our helmets on, visors down, changes our whole way of dealing with the incident. We had,
as if your job isn't hard and stressful enough.
We've had double mattresses thrown out, bottles of urine, all landing around us. So
why? Syd, why?
I just think I don't think we were targeted because we were firefighters. I think we were targeted
because that doesn't make sense, does
because
it?
they were bored, nothing better to do.
Bored youths.
Yeah, exactly. There wasn't a lot in the area for them to do. But as a consequence of this, Essex Fire Service initiated a thing called Fire Break, which was going in and actually engaging with these youths and inviting them onto a fire break course, which is a week course where they'd learn elements of firefighting. They'd learn how to put up a ladder. They'd learn how to wear a BA set. They'd learn, you know, basic fire drills, and that would give them an understanding of what it is to be a firefighter. Because it got so bad in that estate, they actually got private security guards into the blocks of flats to try and calm the residents down. They had dog handlers that would walk up the stairs with the dogs patrolling the stairwells. Okay. But then the kids started then waiting until the dog was up on the upper levels and then sprinkling broken glass all on the stairs. So when the dogs came back down the stairs, they cut all their paws up.
Oh.
So it was getting quite a bad area, quite a bad situation. So this fire break was implemented. And that saw a massive reduction in the amount of...
Oh, you did? It worked?
Yeah, it did work. It did work. Because I think it was just engaging with the youths and, you know, I think...
Yeah, community, engaging with your community, really, isn't it?
I think they were hostile to the police.
To that,
anyone in uniform, they were just hostile towards. And it was just breaking down those barriers and making them realise, we're here to help you. We're not here to cause any issues.
That's what's always baffled me is when you see it. It's like, you ask yourself why, and you just hit the nail on the head. It's bored youths. Yeah. The community are doing nothing for them. You know, their youth clubs are shut down. There's nothing going on in the area. They get bored, and guess what? They wanna have a bit of fun. You know, excite a bit of adrenaline through them, and you guys are the target. Unfortunately, that makes more sense than actually, you know, going out and targeting people who ultimately save lives. It's and it still happens nowadays, does it?
In Essex, any attacks on firefighters we have to report, and it goes up into national statistics. And I think Essex is very low on that front. Since then, I've had no issues.
Was there an era where it was high?
Yeah, well, I think for myself, I can only speak for personal experience.
Sure.
It was back then,
and
whether that was just an element of an age group, and sometimes it can be quite fashionable to do something, and it's not passed on to the next sort of young'uns coming through.
It sort of dies out.
Yeah, it could have been that, but I often see reports in Sheffield, Manchester, Liverpool, with this sort of stuff still going on. So maybe it's more concentrated in city, urban areas.
In certain areas,
yeah.
And it's mainly the areas that are poorer, right?
Yeah.
These poor, run-down sort of estates, where they're not being looked after.
I still maintain I don't see the firefighters are a target per se.
Yeah.
Like the police sometimes, unfortunately, are targets.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
It's just a vehicle for them to, exploit and just get their frustration out. You just happen to be the target at the time.
Wow. Well, I'm glad the numbers have gone down on that, because that was something that always, when I saw it happen, and again, you hear it from America as well, it's just like, wow, these guys surely don't go through that, but you obviously did, and you obviously do. And is there something in place for you as the firefighter? Let's go back from when you first joined to now, dealing with when you come off of a job, whether it's being attacked by youths, whether it's seeing what you've seen in a fire, a house fire, whatever it may be, road traffic accident. Are you guys looked after when you get back? Is there sort of like a debrief element, like in the military, when you get back off a mission? There's a debrief element from it. Everyone okay? Right? What did you see? Where did you go? Or do you just go back? Because you could get called out straight away, right? If you go back, could you get called out straight away on another job? Yeah,
literally. Well, you get called out to another job on the way back from the job.
Yeah, exactly. So before you know it, you've done a couple of jobs in the day, in the space of a couple of hours, and
I mean, so if it's a particularly naughty job, you can book yourselves off the run and give yourself a bit of breathing space. You can say, right, we're taking the machine off the run for an hour, as long as that's all right with our control, and that we've got other machines around in the area that can cover that period of absence. You can take the machine off the run for an hour and just have a wash, have a shower, calm yourselves down, have a little debrief.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Where is your release? Where do we talk about the youths having their release? Where's your guys' release? Is it controlled in a way that's sustainable? Especially back in the day, have you seen a drastic change from when you done it to how it's managed now?
No. How it's managed now is with tea. Like most things, you go back to the station, you have a cup of tea, you sit around the mess table, and basically you have it out.
Same with them.
Everyone all right? And usually, like in any of those sort of environments or jobs, you don't want to show weakness, do you?
No.
So it's not always apparent straight after an incident. Everyone's like, yeah, I'm all right, yeah, I'm fine. And then it's usually the days after that you start maybe seeing a change in someone, or they're not, a bit quieter than they normally be, starting to retract from the watch, doing their own thing. And that's when you put an arm around them and go, you all right? You sure everything's all right? And you watch out for each other and you look after each other. And I think the banter as well, and that black humour, which I'm sure you're aware of, that helps you decompress. And
yeah, it is. It's a dark. It does help you decompress, and it's almost like
you've seen
darker humour, isn't it?
Yeah, but you've seen and experienced things that the average person just
never.
Luckily, fortunately, and I don't wish it on any of them, to see. And
100%
how you deal with that, if that helps you deal with it in that way, then use it.
Use it, yeah.
I've seen some shocking things over the years that I've dealt with. But I think the best way of dealing with it is talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And whether that's to someone, your wife, or to your, someone at work or someone totally remote, as long as you can get it out and verbalise it and talk about it, that it does take it away. It's when you bottle it up and when you close the doors to everyone.
And what do you find the easiest way for you to talk about it? The easiest way for me is through someone that's been there and done it. So, I meet up with a couple of military guys every year, and we'll have without even realise we're doing it, we'll have a drink, we'll all, we'll be in a room, nothing special, and then we'll just talk about the missions that we went on, we talk about, you know, certain situations, certain people that we lost, you know, and before you know it, you've got into this sort of, you know, this dark place, but we're all there for each other.
Yeah.
I find that talking to people that have been there rather than to remote people or to my wife, how did you decompress? Was it your wife that was quite confident, or was it a remote person, or just for people out there? I think
it was a mixture of both, really.
A mixture of both.
I think from what you said about shared experience, only the people that have done it can really understand what you're dealing with, what you've dealt with. Mm-hmm. Although other people can be a bit more sympathetic. So my wife always said to me, tell me everything. I want to know everything that you're going through. I want to be able to understand, and I don't want you to hide anything from me. So I've always been very open with my wife, and she's been brilliant. And she's always offered me that emotional support. Mm-hmm. She's always asking after me and make sure everything's okay. Whereas you can be a bit more open and graphic with your colleagues who have been there.
Exactly, yeah.
And maybe have that black humour that
that no one else would understand. They look at you like that, and you're like, okay, be careful what company I'm around right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is there one particular job, and again, you know, over to you, is there one particular job that really stands out for you that you think, oh, how did I get through that?
There is so many.
I bet there. Yeah. When people ask me, what's the hardest mission you've been on? I'm like, there's so many, but is there one that sort of stands out?
Well, I think there's one over the years that I've spoke to people about, and I see their reaction. I think, oh, that's a bit different. So we were called to assist ambulance, which is usually like bariatric cases, or people falling behind the doors, or elderly people, you know, collapsing in their toilets. The ambulance service can't get into the house to assist them. So we'll go and gain entry for them.
Okay.
Or bariatric patients where you have large people over 30, 35 stone. They need to be like extracted from the building and into an ambulance, so we might help them with that. But on this occasion, we turned up and there was the paramedics who were outside, just a normal semi-detached house in a normal road that you would see anywhere. And as we got out of the machine, our officer in charge went up to the paramedics and said, you know, what is it? Is it bariatric? And they're like, no, it's just, we need you to help us getting this gentleman into the ambulance. Okay, that seems normal. One of the paramedics came up to me with a jar of Vicks and said, you know, do you want to put some of this under your nose? And I was like, well, why would I want to do that? She said, well, it does smell a bit in there. I was like, okay, no, you're all right. I don't want Vicks, it's fine. Mm-hmm. So we walk into the house, and it's a hoarder's house. So the house is just stocked floor to ceiling of paper, it's just rammed. You can't hardly move in it. We had to squeeze to get through the front door. So we walk into the lounge and it's pitch black. I just see this figure on the sofa. It's like a real skeletal figure. Have you ever seen the film Seven?
Yeah.
You know the sloth scene when the person's on the bed and they all think they're dead and they're actually alive? It looked like that. It was like, and the stench was just unbelievable. I've never smelled anything like it.
You wish you would have taken the Vicks.
I wish I'd taken the Vicks. And someone actually said, you know, should we wear BA, our breathing apparatus, which is like, you know, the tank on your back with the mask so you breathe in fresh oxygen. I was like, well, think about the man's dignity. How would you feel if someone's coming to give you a hand and they turned up in a BA set? I said, no, we'll be fine. Anyway, so we're in the room. I've opened the curtain, and it must have been the first time for months this fellow had seen daylight, because his eyes lit up, he let out a groan. We're thinking, flipping, this is a bit strange. Anyway, so we said to the paramedic, like, he's 2 stone wet through. Like, what do you need us for? Well, we can't get him off the sofa. Like, well, what? Okay, well, we'll get him off then. So me and my colleague, we got under his shoulder. One was under, you know, arm under his shoulder one side. The other one was arm under his shoulder the other side. And we've gone to lift him up, and we couldn't lift him up. And we're like, but he's only like 6, 7 stone. There's nothing to the bloke. Like, and this fella's in agony. He's screaming. All these, you know, it wasn't a pretty sight. So anyway, we said, right, this time we'll do it. So we grabbed him and we started lifting him up. We realised he was actually stuck to the sofa, literally stuck to the sofa. So we've had to get an arm under each side of him and then lift him up and literally peeling him off the sofa. And he'd been sitting on the sofa for weeks, months, and he hadn't moved from the sofa. So he'd been defecating, urinating.
Oh no!
Where he sat, and we're like, and basically his backside had rotted into the sofa and formed part of the sofa. So as we were lifting him up, we were
literally peeling his skin off.
Peeling him off. And as we got him up and out into the position where we could get him onto a stretcher and out, looked back into the sofa, and you could just see the bare springs and maggots all in the bottom of the sofa.
No, was that in his skin as well? So his skin had...
Yeah, just
so this guy was literally dead. A corpse.
He was. That's what we thought. We thought he was dead initially, but he was alive. And I know I said earlier on we never really get a lot of feedback about these individuals that end up going to hospital. But transpired one of the fellas on our watch, he had a partner or a friend that was a nurse at one of the wards that he went to, and basically they had to put him into a surgical bath for a long period of time and then pick all the material out of him. But as far as we know, he recovered. But it was just surreal. It was a beautiful row of houses, and he'd just been left there for so long, no care. No one had checked on him, and he'd been probably sat there for months. Yeah. And it was just a little peek into what happens behind closed doors. People just walking past. Actually, it was the postman, I think, that called us in, because when he put the post through the letterbox, he got the stench coming through, and he thought,
automatically thought it was a dead body.
Yeah.
So you don't think about things like that, do you? It's like, no. And these poor people that just sat there decomposing, basically alive. Yeah. But you took the Vicks next time you went into a job, didn't you? When someone said, "Do you want some Vicks?" a bit like that. I'll have some of that.
A couple of those inhalers straight up the nose.
Exactly. And this is what people don't realise. Your job is so versatile. You go into so many different sort of environments and see such different things. To anyone joining or wanting to join the fire brigade, it will keep you on your toes, right?
Yes, yeah. Every day is different, and it's fulfilling. It's in the 25 years I've been in, it's given me everything that I've ever wanted from a job. And jobs always change; they continually change. It's not, you speak to older hands, the job's so much better 20 years ago, and I'll say the job's so, and that goes on. So much better now, but the privilege of doing my job and knowing that there's people walking around today because of the acts of me and my colleagues, it is so rewarding. The money's not great, all those things aren't great, but there's not many jobs that give you that satisfaction to know there's people walking around because of your actions, who would otherwise may not be here.
So you talk about house fires, that you don't really attend a lot of them like we think you would. Firefighters always out on house fires. Is it because we live in a safer environment or a safer society where people are no longer smoking in their houses, smoke alarms everywhere? Do you think we live in a safer society right now?
I think we do. I think smoke alarms are very important. As a fire service, it's our mission to ensure that every household has a working smoke alarm.
The smoke alarms are huge. When some people take the batteries out because they're going boot, 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 or you have to press they're really, really critical, really important, right?
They don't stop fires.
Yeah.
But you cannot underestimate their importance. If you're asleep at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, only thing is if there's a fire in your home, the only thing that's going to save you is a smoke alarm. Without a smoke alarm, that fire is going to carry on burning undetected, and the carbon monoxide, which is an odourless gas, that's going to take you. So
it's that gets you first, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't wake you from your sleep. It sends you into a deeper sleep, right? So therefore killer. You don't kill. It's the silent killer. Yeah. Wow.
So the smoke alarms, every home.
Every home should have them. You've been smoking, Syd, by the sounds of it.
Every home should have a smoke alarm, and there's no excuses.
Yeah.
If you can't afford one, contact your local fire service and they'll come and fit you one for free. There's absolutely no...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So if you can't afford a fire alarm, call your local
even if you can afford a smoke alarm and you can't be bothered to put it up,
yeah.
call the fire service and they'll send someone round and they'll install home working smoke alarms in your property. So there's absolutely no excuse why anybody in this country has not got a working smoke alarm.
There you go.
And you'll be surprised at how many people haven't. We still regularly go to jobs and there's no... we'll always fit one while we're there.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised how many people haven't got one. And it's such a simple thing and it saves lives. It's been proven to save lives. But house fires,
cigarettes as well. Do you find that when you could smoke in public places, and a lot of people do smoke in their houses still, but a lot of people take pride in not doing that. Was that a big cause of house fires?
Yeah,
cigarettes.
Yeah,
and it still is.
The majority of house fires that we attend are caused by electrical goods.
Electrical goods.
Tumble dryers, people not emptying the filters on the tumble dryer, so they get a build up of very fine material.
That's right.
Leave the tumble dryer on, it overheats, and it can cause a fire like that.
Wow. So yeah, it's a little fine. When you take the little drawer out and it's got all the little fluff in there, that's like, you put a light on that, you put a spark on that,
gone.
That's gone.
Yeah. So
electrical goods mainly.
Yeah, mainly electrical goods. But you know, you have to be a bit pragmatic. You can't, it's not, electrical goods aren't unsafe.
Yeah,
but we just need to make sure we're using them correctly and we're using the right plugs and fuses and all that sort of stuff. So there's a bit of responsibility from the owner. But if we do, if we go to a fridge fire, we'll always take the name and model number of the fridge, and then we'll feed that back in. And then what can happen is, if across the country there's a particular product that keeps getting called out for fires, then
that's
they can
when
do the
recall them back. That's right. Yeah, there's been quite a few of them, hasn't there?
Yeah.
And that comes from the fire brigade, right? From the fire service going, right,
when we do our fire investigations, we'll send that
sense.
information back, and they can start gaining some evidence to see if it's something that's untoward across the country rather than just an isolated incident.
But you say the main incidents are RTAs.
No, well, AFAs is the main one.
AFAs.
The actuated fire alarms, where it's just
but the main.
But the fires are probably the least of our calls, really. Mm-hmm. Usually when we do get a fire, it's usually a decent fire. But RTCs we go to a lot, road traffic collisions, animal rescues, we do those.
Yes, animal rescues, of course.
We do large horses, cows, anything bigger than a dog. There's a specialist unit that can rescue any sort of animal.
Have you rescued any animals?
Yeah, horses, cows.
Take me through the most.
Well,
one of your big animal rescues.
Well, I can give you a couple of examples. One, we've had a horse. This really frustrated me, but this was a horse out in Burnham on Crouch Way, which is like marshland and ditches everywhere, and some people had taken some horses out, riding them across plains. And what this fella in the middle of January, for some reason, decided to take the horse into a ditch. Yeah, had never been ridden through there before, so didn't know what the ground was like. So took it into this ditch, neck height on the horse, and it just sunk, just stuck in the middle of a ditch. So there we are, in the middle of a field with a big tractor pulling a horse out of a ditch. But it's just, why would you do that to an animal? Why in the middle of January would you take it through freezing water into ground that you don't know? But and other horses that we've been to,
a lot of it, like you said, all of it is like, apart from it's user error, right?
Yeah.
It comes from the individual itself. The majority of these problems.
Yeah. I mean, but a lot of the large animals, usually we get a good, successful result. But there are occasions where you spend 3 or 4 hours covered in mud trying to rescue a horse, pulling it out, and then the vet puts it down, which is a bit frustrating.
And that's where that's that part where you hand over and it's over to them.
But it's like,
But you've done your job, right? You've done your job. You've got in there, done what you're supposed to do. And now you hand it over to.
Yeah, but I mean, our job initially, we make sure the rescue's viable. There's no point spending all that time and energy rescuing an animal that
can't be rescued.
Yeah. So we should make sure the viability is okay. We always get a vet on the scene because obviously, large animals, they can be very destructive, very damaging to us as individuals. So the vet will sedate them where possible. We'll bring them out, and then the vet will take over and take it from there. And then if he decides the animal's not viable for whatever reason, because it may have injuries to its legs and that we can't see because it's stuck, then they may have to anaesthetise it, which is quite sad and quite demoralising after all the effort you've put in to pull it out. But
so there's a layover of working with professionals, like with vets, with the police force, with the ambulance service, paramedics,
prison service,
air ambulance, prison service as well.
Yeah, I've been to the prison.
Oh, really?
I've got Chelmsford Prison on my ground, so we quite frequently go to Chelmsford Prison.
Why is that?
I've never been able to get my head around it, but a lot of inmates will just set fire to their cells with them inside it. And I can never fathom why, when you're in a locked cell, stone concrete walls, why you would set a fire with you inside it. But they do, and it's protocol. A lot of the time, the fire service, the prison service will have extinguished the fire before we get there, but it's protocol, it's Home Office protocol that we have to go in and do a fire investigation after the fire to make sure it's okay. But yeah, sometimes they're not out, sometimes they're in there with a weapon and they won't release them until they've been subdued. And then you're standing there and you've got the prison service response team with all their shields and all robo-copped up.
TSG or whatever it is.
Yeah, swinging the door open and then creaming into the cell, and then by the time they've dragged him out, then I have to go in and do the fire investigation. But it's, and then we were saying about the fire break courses. So I was walking through the wing once and I had this voice from the cell going, "Oh, yeah, I'm a fireman. I could do your job." It's like, what? It's like, what, mate? Yeah.
You stay behind that door, mate.
He goes, yeah, I could do it. I've done the courses and everything. I was like, right.
A week course.
Yeah. And then I got back on the phone. I said, there's some fella in there because he's a fireman. He's like, nah, it can't be. And then it transpires that these fire break courses that the Essex Fire Service run, they did one in the prison for a week. Oh. And they got some inmates involved, and so he'd been on this course. So actually, he wasn't wrong, but it was a bit surreal that he's shouting at me for a cell door.
Yeah, all of a sudden he's a qualified firefighter. You're like, no, mate, don't get carried away. You've done a week's course. I know the type of individual. Yeah. Trust me, it's the same in the military, right?
And then animals. You said about, I had a job a few months ago now. It was a bungalow fire. It started in the garage from white goods, spread up through the garage, went into the eaves of the bungalow, went into the roof, took out quite a chunk of the bungalow. Anyway, we turned up. We had to start evacuating all the animals. So I think we pulled out a goat, two spider monkeys.
Oh, really?
20 rabbits, 16 dogs, 4 chinchillas. It was just like a zoo. I couldn't believe it. Wow. Just kept bringing out more and more and more animals, and you just don't know what goes on behind people's front doors sometimes. And we get exposed to a lot of stuff like that.
And do you get exposed to? Obviously, every call is different. How do you deal when it comes to children? Have you got children yourself?
Yeah, I've got a daughter who's 12 and a boy who's 15.
How do you cope? Because that's one thing that I sort of struggled with in the military. Anytime and it's not collateral, but anytime children or women were caught up in what we were doing, that would hit me harder than the actual mission itself.
Yeah.
Do you see a lot of that in the fire service?
Well, personally, I was very fortunate in my career that I had no instances involving children. Okay. Certainly no fatalities or serious injuries. And
25 years as well.
I did well. I mean, I don't want to be too selfish and think about me, but there's a lot of guys and girls within my career that have been exposed to that, and it's very difficult and very traumatising, especially when you've got your own children. But I touch wood that I fortunately didn't have to experience anything like that. We had a lot of incidents with children, where they're house fire and they're standing outside their houses and they're in tears, or an RTC, a road traffic collision, where they've been involved but unfortunately not been hurt. So, yeah, it does make you hug your children closer and tighter.
Makes you appreciate things, right?
Certainly.
And you say guys and girls. So you've seen in those 25 years, you've seen a huge transition from the shift of this male-dominant organisation to now is there a lot more women in the fire service than there was when you joined?
Yeah.
And what are the benefits and what are the pros and what are the cons of that?
Yeah, so there's still not a lot.
There's not a lot. Okay.
No. I mean,
percentage roughly? No.
5%.
Okay. Oh, so not a lot at all.
Yeah. So there's not lots, but what female firefighters we have got. See, I don't like the term. A firefighter is a firefighter is a firefighter. Whether it's female, whether it's whatever they are. They're firefighters, and that's what I primarily see. And you have good firefighters, and you have bad firefighters. Same as you have good soldiers, you have bad soldiers.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's irrelevant, And the female firefighters that we've got, that I've experienced, have been first class, and they're excellent firefighters. And they what they bring to the job, or what they bring that's different, is maybe women have more empathy generally.
Yeah, absolutely. No, 100%. Of course they do.
And I think they give you an into instances and scenarios that maybe the men wouldn't be able to get you.
Yeah, lose their head a little bit.
Yeah.
They give you more of a calming influence, a different perspective, a different view. Yeah, 100%.
Definitely.
Absolutely. And so you say 5%.
Yeah.
That's small. Why do you think has the training changed since you joined?
Has the training changed?
Because in the military, there's obviously they're trying to encourage women to join.
Yeah.
And questioning whether the training's becoming easier, are the standards dropping, and in some organisations that answer is pretty clear. It's yes. In order to get women through a certain criteria that hasn't been passed, for the last couple of years, then the training changes.
Yeah.
But therefore, does it change or does it to the standards drop? It's it's questionable. And again, there's women are absolutely phenomenal in certain roles in the military, but when it comes to the fighting forces on the front line, especially with the Royal Marines now accepting the women, the parachute regiment and the special forces, even though none have passed for the special forces. That's just opened recently, so that will be a long time until we see any women in that organisation, I'm sure of. But even with the Royal Marines, they're struggling to get people through Lympstone. They want to because they've changed the whole accommodation. They've spent millions on changing the accommodation block to accommodate females, and I don't think there's one person that's got through, one woman that's got through, and now they're having to sort of evaluate the training because they've spent all this money on changing these facilities, all this money on changing the accommodation to facilitate for women to go into the Marines, but yet they can't get through a certain stage of training.
Right.
And I'm very on it because I've got pals who are actually on the training teams out there, and they're like, we're having to sort of change things up a bit because to justify why we spent all this money and no one's getting through.
Yeah.
And the lads are saying that the standards are starting to drop, and therefore it could have a detrimental effect when moving forward onto the battlefield.
Yeah.
Have you, especially the 25 years, I know it's an awkward question.
No.
The 25 years, have you seen any of that sort of transpire?
So 25 years ago when I went for the fire service, when I went to do the written exam to get in, so we're all waiting to go in to do the written exam. There must have been, I don't know, say 95 men and 5 women. Yeah. And before you got passed to do the entrance exam, you had to do a thing called grip test. I don't know if you've ever...
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's basically a calibrated machine that you grip, and it gives out a reading of your grip strength. Mm-hmm. So after doing that, we filed in and went in to do the written exam, and I think out of the 5 ladies that were there, it transpired there was only one then got through to the written exam. Yet, a high percentage of the males got through.
Of course.
Then a few months, maybe a year or however long later, that test had then been removed from the entrance exam.
This is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about...
And it's like, well, why have you got rid of that? Well, it's not relevant. It's not a relevant test. Well, it was relevant when I did it, and everyone before me's done it.
Yeah, when you're carrying the hoses, when you're having to push, the grip strength is super important.
The irony is they've now deemed this grip strength test as not relevant to the role. But then when we do our annual FitX, which is our annual fitness test to make sure we're competent and capable of to carry on doing operational work, you still do the grip strength test. Grip strength test. It's like, well, you're saying it's not relevant to get... No, because once they're in, you can then build up your grip strength to be able to pass it for the FitX. Yeah. But then what if they don't?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's an isolated case of where I've seen some of the... Like when I
and this goes on across the whole board. That's just one test. There's multiple tests that would have been taken out. There's multiple tests that would have been numbed down. There's
bleep test. We had a bleep test. I think it was 11...
That's a big one.
11.4 or 11.6 when I joined. Now I think it's 9.4, 9.2. It's gone down a hell of a lot.
I think the police force is
just walking pace, isn't it?
Like
don't want to catch criminals, do they?
It's shocking. And the standards do drop, but people are, it's a taboo subject, isn't it? Because everyone should be allowed to apply for whatever they want. I do agree with that. But then some jobs aren't just for some people. Some jobs just don't fit their fit their physique, fit the way they think, fit into who they are, and that's fine. There's something out there for you. You just have to go and find it. But in order to to push that narrative, shall we say, we shouldn't. I disagree with changing stuff, and don't get me wrong. We have to. I think stay current. We have to stay current and with the times.
It demeans the achievements of the females that have
absolutely
got to that stage, doing everything exactly the same as everyone else. But I say exactly, but then even if you lower the standards, then it's the same. But what it does, it then brings in weaker men, and it brings in lower capable individuals across the board, whether they're female, male, or whatever.
Yeah, and the standards will naturally drop. It's doesn't take the brains of an archbishop to realise that, and you see the standards drop over the years, and they do rise in some aspects, in some elements. But in general, they seem to be dropping, and I've certainly seen that in the military, and I think it's the police force. I've heard it, and I think that's across the board in general. But
another issue that I don't think they've really addressed or actually looked forward. Our FitX, we have to get a VO2 max of 42 to stay on the run, which is quite a high level.
Yeah, no, it's decent,
but it's not relative to age. So the argument is, and it's a fair one, fire doesn't discriminate. So whether you're 18 or whether you're 50, the fire's not going to go, I'm not going to burn so hot, I'm not going to be so intensive because you're a bit older. Yeah. So I understand that. And the reason why I was fortunate enough to be able to retire at 50 and the normal pensionable age used to be 55. So and that's because our job is difficult, it's intense, and you need to be physically fit and able to be able to complete it. Mm-hmm. So we'd pay a lot of money into our pension, which then allowed us to retire early and carry on. Yes, that's good for us as individuals, but it's also good for the public because you're getting a young, fit, healthy fire service responding to your incidents. Mm-hmm. And the upper age limit for retirement now is 60. And you've got to get that 42 VO2 max till you're 60.
And
which is tough.
It's tough, it is.
And I was looking at a scale the other day, and a good rating for a woman between 55 and 60 is 32 VO2 max. So now, but that firefighter they've recruited, female firefighter they've recruited, when she gets to 56, 57, 58, she's still got to get 42 VO2 max.
And what happens if she doesn't?
Ultimately, she'll be sacked.
And the same with men, if they don't reach that standard. Then
they'll be given every opportunity to reach that standard. They'll be given all the support they need,
and then their pension,
health support, and their pension taken away. And I think that's the ideological ambition, is to make people leave the service earlier, hold on to their pensions for longer, and ultimately have a transitional fire service workforce that then breaks down the culture of unity and strength that is there to then bring forward all their reform changes and getting the firefighters to be doing ambulance work and clearing roads and ditches and all the other work that isn't being done by the rest of the public sector through no fault of their own. Suddenly we've got a firefighter workforce that we're not going to so many fires, you're not going to this, we're not responding to so many emergencies, let's find other useful work for you to do. And there's a barrier to that, and that's being prevented at the moment by a strong fire brigades union. If they start making it a very transitional workforce.
Up the union.
Well,
I love the old fire brigade unions.
They've been very good in maintaining our standards and our fire cover and our safety, and that's essentially what we do. I mean, I've been in
good on them.
Yeah, I've been in industrial disputes all throughout my career. Only twice ever for my own and my colleagues' personal reasons, and that was for our pensions and our pay back. Our pay was 20 years ago and our pensions was about 10 years ago. Other than that, it's always been to keep the fire service for Essex, because they want to take away fire engines, because they want to take away the aerial ladder platforms, because they want to reduce the service that they're giving to the public, and we've fought for that to keep it as it is.
And what direction from now moving forward? I know you've left a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
What direction is the fire service going in, or the fire brigade going in? It's a tough one, isn't it?
I mean, we're there to serve the public. We're there to respond, and we're there to protect and to save lives, and that's never going to change. That's never going to change. But the direction is it's a politically led one, doing more for less. You know, we're
doing
being
more for less. Yeah.
When I joined up, there was over 1,000 whole-time operational firefighters. I think it's 440 now.
And you say it's politically led. That's, I would say, if everyone's being honest, that's all organisations right now. It's, you know, if everyone was honest and said, you know, is there political influence in your organisation? If you said no, I'd question you.
Yeah. No.
And do you think that political agenda is detrimental to what actually the fire brigade is all about? Like you said, serving and protecting the public. And
yeah. I mean, we used to have a fire authority in Essex where I think it was made up of 12 councillors, elected members that were all cross-party affiliations. So it'd be Lib Dems, Labour. So there'd be no one political view that was driving it. They'd come to agreements about funding and stuff. Now we've got a police and fire crimes commissioner who's a Tory politician. He's only going to do.
He's in charge, right?
Yeah, he's in charge. He holds the purse strings. He's the chief. Our chief fire officer is answerable to him. So he's a Tory politician. So he's not gonna,
fucking politics gets in everywhere, doesn't it? Fucking politics, stay out.
He's not going to buck that trend.
These fucking organisations, let them do their job. Listen, I've seen it filtrate into the military, and you know it's there, and it's one of those, you almost want to go back to those good old days where, like you said, everyone was part of everyone had a voice, and common sense would prevail and discretion, and now there's that political influence that is, I believe, is ruining things. But let's talk about and let's finish up on your retirement, Syd, because 25 years, that's some service. Talk about 25 years and then 9 years, you say, in the military. Yeah. That's a service and a half to your country, mate. So congratulations on that. Fucking outstanding effort. And what are you going to do now? Firstly, how old are you, Syd?
I'm 50.
50. Listen, you got your whole life in front of you. So what's the plans now? So you've come out the fire service. Right time?
Yes.
Happy?
Yes.
What's next?
I'm going to.
Don't tell me the police force or something like that.
No, never a copper.
Never a copper.
I've been doing some work in fire safety, fire protection consultant. Doing,
so mentoring now and teaching.
More the private sector.
Private sector,
just staying fire related, but not putting my life on the line anymore. So a bit more controlled and.
Good on you, mate.
That'd be good.
Well, listen, it's great to have you on, Syd. I could chat to you all day. Some fascinating things. Enjoy your retirement.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming on the EFA podcast, mate.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers, Syd. You're a gentleman. Thank you.